afternoon, Venerable Abbot, dear Sangha. No book today, so which means today is going to be a Q&A session. So as I've mentioned before, usually after I finish a teaching topic, so I typically do not allow any questions outside of my Dharma talks to be asked during service. So this will be an open-ended or open door policy of questions you may have on anything I've read recently or anything I might have taught in the past. We had completed already the 4th chapter of the Dhammapada, Pubbavaga, flowers. So next week we'll start on chapter 5. And then after that, we will take a break from the Dhammapada to go into a different topic, and then finish that, and then go back to the Dhammapada. So, what enlightening questions do you beautiful people have for me today?
It seems that throughout people's lives, they go on believing sorts of things, whether it's like mundane sorts of beliefs or supernatural beliefs. Why does that belief exist in the first place?
It's a question for a philosopher and a psychologist. Fortunately, I have a degree in psychology, so I can kind of answer that question.
I think I want to rephrase the question. In the Western culture also, we study law of impermanence. Similarly, we study like law of what we call law of abundance. So I think if you question law of abundance, Western culture is law of abundance. So whatever you think is one of things, yeah, it's here everywhere, achievable. Or you are completely full of like something is available to you, money, fortune, whatever.
Oh, that's not how I understood the question, but that's a great second point.
So that's why do we believe in law of abundance?
Law of impermanence, is that what you're saying? Of permanence. After I give my take, if you don't mind, before I forget my train of thought. So I'm going to go with one side of the question first, which is, why do people have belief in belief, right? Why do we believe in things? Why do we go with belief in things? That's an easy question, or easy answer, sorry. Because, right, we don't know. But the reason we give it to it for some people is, well, God created the universe, right? It's kind of I'm trying to use nice words here. It's an excuse to answer a question, right? To feel validated that there's an answer to this unanswerable question, right? God created you, right? I'm like, okay, well, I can't explain it in a physical, logical, scientific sense, so I'm going to use a spiritual belief to assuage my concern. But that's pretty much it. Like, why do we believe in anything? Well, because I want to believe it. People have the mindset of, I have to believe in something for things to make sense, right? But that actually doesn't make sense, right? Because there's or experimentation or contemplation, and so for the things that are unanswerable in a scientific sense or logical sense, we have to create some sort of answer or excuse to just as a placeholder, right? Until a true answer may come about. It doesn't, right? Whether you want to use God as an excuse or not, it just doesn't make sense that there's an answer as to why the universe exists. It just is. Even if we have an answer, what difference does that make? Does it change anything? Does it change your physicality in this world? Does it change who you are as a person versus an alien or an animal or something else? It doesn't change. And so we have to I was talking to, or Quang and I were talking sometime last week, that the Buddha had a set of unanswerable questions, right? He called them restricted questions, right? These are questions because these are questions that had no reason for answering, right? And one of them was, why does the universe exist? So that's my take on it. I hope that makes sense.
No, it's more like, what is the cling to the answer? It seems that a lot of what I've seen, people cling to a belief because of the belief in nothing is uncomfortable.
Well, that still goes back to people just wanting to have an answer. Yes, Leon. It just means, right. We want to believe in an afterlife, for instance, right? But right, you can believe that this table's made out of wood, right? We don't know until you examine an experiment on this table, right? And we can say, okay, this table's wood. Well, now that is no longer belief. Now that is fact, right? Right. We know the sun's coming up, right? And so when it does, well, hopefully, when it does, then we can say, okay, this is no longer belief. This is a fact that the sun came up. But to your point, belief is also coming from a point of ignorance, right? Because ignorance in Buddhism, at least, means not knowing. And so belief, so that we don't feel that kind of emptiness and that sense of dread of not knowing. We want to believe in something. We want to believe in God. We want to believe in the Buddha. We want to believe in the afterlife. We want to believe in karma. We want to believe in this or that, just to satisfy our unknowing. This is why contemplation in Buddhism is extremely important, because at least for the Dharma, there is no belief. The only belief we have in the Dharma is if we practice the Dharma and we accord with the teachings and we live a life of morality, concentration, and wisdom, we will become enlightened, right? And we know that's a fact because we have ancestral teachers that pass down those teachings. We have the Buddha that has to work. The teachings itself is not a belief, it's not a faith. The faith or the belief comes from you, comes from our own ability to practice these teachings, and so that we can turn our own belief of ourselves into an act of wisdom, of knowing, assuaging our ignorance and saying, okay, well, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. Then you try it and it works. I hope, right? That's what we intend, right? We try, we practice our meditations, we practice our Dharma, we study and we learn, we listen. And if we practice successfully, then we can see it. Over time, you'll see the fruits of the practice, right? No one has to give it to you. I can't give you results of your meditation. I can tell you, hey, this is how you meditate, this is what to meditate on, this is what to expect, this is how things feel, right? Whether it's deep meditation or different types of techniques, I can give you the blueprint, but I can't build you I can't create your enlightenment. I cannot create your aha moments.
Is mind, and mind grabs at forms, and because of karmic memory, it always grabs at simple forms or any kind of forms. It always does that because it needs something to anchor itself, so to speak. It has its own unique memory to where it'll have later Vedanta, there is a concept in Nirvana called multi-unity. It's not this, not this. Ultimately, it's an unidentification of anything. Because ultimate reality cannot be, can really not be explained. Which then, ultimately, even in the Vedanta, the jiva, which we refer to as the soul, is illusionary. Because once you understand that all the traits and qualities are just a substratum, which Brahman experiences, from my perspective, everything becomes Brahman. So, therefore, all there is matter of mind, because matter of mind is the substratum experience of that ultimate reality.
Okay, let me rephrase my question. It's like, I think the question is very simple. It's knowing the fact that, knowing the fact, the law of impermanence, we know that this is true. We talk about Leon said, we know the fact this is this is a fact. And all very cognitive, whatever you want to call it, the same thing, law of impermanence.
Yeah.
Knowing all of that, knowing and believing all that this is true, and everything is we cling to we cling to some temporary things, cling to attach to these unnecessary things. We can't, knowing that, why do we do that? Why this human behavior? And he's trying to explain the law. Knowing the fact, the seventh reason for us, we keep clinging to us like supernatural power, like law of abundance, like
right.
investment. So say, okay, everything is abundant. Go for money, go for this, go for fame and all that. Why do we do it? Because of like we get attraction to this bigger car or money, and that's the cause of suffering. Like clinging is the root cause of suffering. And we suffer. We go to suffer and all that. Why do we knowing all those things was the human nature, which he's trying to explain. I'm a very complex and very complex being. Trying to explain. The mind is like wired for this, that, why?
I can't answer that question. I don't know people's minds, right? But and I was again talking to Quang in the past. There's a difference between knowing and realization, right? We know impermanence is a thing. We know name and frame and status and all this. We know that it's impermanent. It's not long lasting. We know that, but yet we still go after it, right? So there's a difference between but we still go after things as an unenlightened mind when it comes to impermanence. We go after those things because even though we know they are impermanent, we don't want to let go of the satisfaction or the pleasure it brings to us. Because people will think, well, this brings me satisfaction, this brings me happiness, this brings me pleasure, because what else will, right? So instead of trying to bring them happiness and satisfaction and pleasure over and over again, right? It's just so much work, right? it creates so much unnecessary work. But until we get to the point where we can realize, like, truly penetrate the law of impermanence and acknowledge and see and touch and taste and feel the true nature of impermanence, that's the only time we can finally let go of these things, right? Not when I say let go, not meaning like give them all away and give it up, right? But no longer attaching to them, no longer clinging to them, right? From my own experience, and I've mentioned this several times, I love impermanence. Impermanence is my favorite thing that will ever exist in this entire universe. Impermanence, right? Just knowing that, to me, brings me satisfaction. To know that things are impermanent brings me satisfaction. It's not the things that are impermanent that bring me satisfaction. It's the realization of impermanence that brings me satisfaction. So for me, some of you know that, or I may have mentioned before, that I love food. I love all kinds of food. But I can eat all these kinds of food and just simply let it go, right? It's just the flavors and the tastes and the texture. But once it's gone, it's gone. I don't cling to wanting more, right? I can let go of it pretty easily. But that's the type of realization we need. Versus, ooh, this tastes good. I want it again tomorrow. I don't have that. I think. I'm pretty sure I don't have that, right? But I can say I enjoy things. I can say I enjoy, for instance, Thai tea. We have Thai tea like every week, right? Once a week. But if we skip a week and I don't make Thai tea, then it's fine. I'm not sad about it, right? Or if I don't make my favorite food this week, that's fine. I don't care about it, right? Or if it's too hot, right? Because we were sitting in the library the other day and we were just sweating, right? It was so hot. It is what it is, right? It's hot outside. There's nothing I can't change. Impermanence. That's the penetration of what impermanence is, and it's a difficult thing to truly realize, right? We can have a deep understanding that impermanence exists, but deep understanding completely melt away all the desires, all the clinging factors that we have to things, and you can finally see something that you once clung to, and just be like, all right, let's just let it go. Right? Much easier said than done, obviously. But that's the realization that the Buddha had, right? Because even the Buddha, prior to being a Buddha, was in pleasures and women and song and food, but he knew even that wasn't enough, right? Even that was not going to satisfy him for the rest of his life. And so he had a moment of realization of impermanence even prior to being the Buddha of enlightenment, right? And that's when he went out and saw. It's much harder, unfortunately, these days to become enlightened because we're too distracted by stupid things everywhere, right? We have so much stuff, right? When we read the sutras, we hear of all these monks and nuns and lay people becoming enlightened, and we're like, wow, so many people can get enlightened, and yet today, maybe one every generation is enlightened. There's too much. Versus back in the Buddha's day, all you did was work, go home to your family, take care of your family, see the Buddha, go back and repeat, right? There's nothing much you can do. But today, anything you want, you can have it done within minutes, days, weeks, right? You want to travel on the other side of the world, we're on a plane today and you're there tomorrow. For the Buddha, it would have taken them months to get even just to a few countries over. Pleasures of a spiritual life or monastic life is that you leave that, right? And we recognize that the 5 aggregates, the 5 skandhas, is what causing us suffering, right? Our form, feeling, perception, mental formation, consciousness. Or these 6 sense pleasures of eye, ears, nose, tongue, mind, and objects of mind. That is suffering. And so for those that have an aha moment or a taste of enlightenment and leave the worldly life for a monastic life, it's because they know or they've tasted the absence of contact with those senses. Because it's the contact of our senses that turn into desire, turns into becoming, right? Becoming as in one of the 12 links of dependent origination. Becoming is what, number 10? Becoming here means that all the prior links, right, of contact, of form, and the becoming is the point of what you will do with everything prior to that. What are you going to do with this pleasurable feeling? Right? Are you going to indulge in it? Are you going to let it go? Are you going to deny it? Are you going to understand it? Are you going to contemplate it? And whatever you do with that becomes that becoming. And so once that contact is made and it gets to that point of becoming, what are you going to do with it? And that what you're going to do with it is, unless we cut off the things that make us become happy or unhappy or satisfied or unsatisfied, pleasured or unpleasured, until we cut off that link, we will continually be reborn in samsara. We'll continue to be reborn over and over again until we cut off all those things, cut off all those afflictions, cut off all those fetters. But that's the problem with humanity. We know or we think we know, but we potential, right? Because there are people out there who don't know impermanence, that don't believe in impermanence, that don't know impermanence. You are so fortunate to know that permanence exists. You're so fortunate to understand permanence. So you are 1,000 steps closer to realization than anybody else that does not. And that makes you a special type of being. So, I don't want to say the word of truth. Yes, sir.
The Buddha often displays what people would say magic abilities, but I would say more heightened sense perception abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So when he left the palace, as you know, he was of a particular type of princely status. He would have received a religious education that's pretty much, and then he went and sat underneath different gurus, and he practiced there until he quenched.
Right.
So, what methodologies does he use for each sense perception? Samadhi, that he has this perception of heightened sense perceptions. Because those sense perceptions throughout a lot of the Dhammapada and throughout a lot of the stories, they're there and they appear to be mystical, powers to people who don't necessarily have those same sense perceptions. So does he have a methodology to enhance sense perceptions?
I don't think I fully understand your question. If someone wants to try to reiterate.
So I think maybe I should simplify. I think that's probably my question too. How do we, like you said, yeah, knowing is always, we have knowledge, which is good, which is starting point.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get this knowledge to realization? How do we get this? I think that's what, so he's saying, what methodology you use, Buddha used to get the wisdom, right?
Is very home. He's very tuned to the sense perceptions, like beyond the average person. He can look at somebody, hear what's unsaid, what's being unsaid.
Mm-hmm.
He can see what probably they need. You know what I mean? And then there's also the smell perception. And so I'm thinking that there's methodologies he has to enhance sense perceptions. Meditation.
The other thing that occurs to me is that these human functions, you can also accomplish what you call powers, but we all have the same sensual input since we're humans, right? So we have to start from there. The question is, what do you do with those sensual inputs? Do you understand them? Do you let them drive you to crave something? Or so I don't think there's anything superhuman about it. He had very advanced powers.
It wouldn't be hung up so much on these spiritual powers the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas have, right? Because it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't matter, right? For all we know, that just could be storytelling to exaggerate the practice, right? Our view in the world becomes less polluted. Just think when it's foggy outside, right? And the fog in this sense represents our defilements, the three poisons, right? All the fetters, all the things that cause us to not become enlightened. This is the fog. And true reality is everything that the fog is covering, but we can't see it, right? Because the fog is there. But as the fog starts to dissipate, and as the fog starts to disappear, and we see more and more of the world, right? It becomes more clear where we're walking, right? The direction that we're in, the location that we're in, right? The things that are surrounding us, the people that are there, the animals that are there, the beings that are there, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer as the fog goes away. Likewise, our mind is also right now fogged up. Practice, and as we start to become more enlightened, right, by the practice and by the teachings and studying, it starts to purify the mind, right? And that's the whole goal of our practice, is to purify the mind. The more the mind becomes purified, the easier it is to see the true reality of nature and true reality of things, right? And so the Buddha, being completely enlightened, fully enlightened, right? He has zero fog. His mind is completely clear. He is able to, and so it's because of that, because he can see what others cannot, is the reason why he has these powers. It's nothing supernatural. It's nothing that's magical. If you're standing in a field of fog, you cannot see. But if I were to stand 10 feet away from you where the fog has not yet hit, I'm able to see clearly. And so because the Buddha is able to see clearly through that fog, or able to see clearly for what type of teaching you may need. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
That's kind of where I've developed in a sense with this practice of letting go of a lot of those beliefs. Where there were some things that I realized, like, how do I do this? This isn't really leading anywhere. Yet where I guess in my own sense, I don't truly believe in the, how do I say this? Letting go of things that don't make me happy. So where there was a lot of things that I was holding on to that like made me uncomfortable or made me sad, or that in that sense, to where as I let go of them, like the net happiness in my life went up. I wasn't actually doing anything that made me happy. I was just doing things. I was doing less things that made me unhappy. So like the net of everything just went up. So where the way that I see it, if I stop doing all the things that make me unhappy, I'll just naturally get.
Liberation is the absence of suffering. You're not gaining anything. You're not making things to become happy. You're just taking away things that may cause you unhappiness, and then the happiness will naturally increase. Naturally will be there, right? The mind is naturally in a state of liberation. But again, it's fogged up, right? And so we're not trying to blow away the fog. It's what am I trying to say? We're not trying to add things to make us happy. We're just trying to get rid of the things that make you be unhappy. And you have to, or get what you don't want, or not have, or whatever maybe that is unhappiness, right? It's not a positive and negative. It's just a state of being and a state of non-being. And so the more you get rid of non-being, aka unhappiness, and the things that cause you suffering, your sense of being, your sense of happiness will naturally be.
Cluttering our brain, cluttering our home, garage, whatever we have, keep cleaning the house. Things that make, knowing all that, just keep filling up.
Yeah.
Keep cluttering our mind. So it's reverse. It's why mind is wired reverse. So I mean, that's really kind of like we have the knowledge, but no realization.
Mm-hmm.
No wisdom. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, think of the society, think of the environment that we were all in, right? How many of us were ingrained in our mind, you have to get a high education, you have to really get a good job, you have to have a family with this many kids, you have to have this kind of home, you have to have this kind of car, because these are the things that will make you happy. Parents. I've called my parents y'all are dumb several times, because in their mind they think that having grandchildren is like the ultimate goal in life, I was like, well, sorry, you ain't gonna get any from me. Right? But that's unfortunately a source of unhappiness for them. I hear it all the time. And I'm like, I don't know how many more times you want me to apologize, right? But then I have to remind them, at least my mother, that I'd be like, right, I'm not giving you sadness. I'm not giving you happiness. You're allowing the lack of grandchildren to affect your life in a negative way. And I was like, that's on you. That's not me. That's not my problem. I'm sorry. Like, I love you to death. You're my mother. Your sadness for not having grandchildren is not my problem. Yes, sir.
So, fortunately, we have something very direct and specific from Buddha. Refreshing to read through those.
Right.
Those 5 things, 4 things? The true happiness. No, it's a whole couple of pages.
Yeah. We haven't gotten there yet, but yeah. Just think, even just if you can recall the Happiness Sutra that we chant during New Year. Can someone bring me the book, please? The General Chant book? Can you bring me the General Chant book? And it has something else to say. Lost track. What was Leon saying? I forgot.
The belief about your mom.
No, what was Leon saying?
So the thing that truly brings happiness, the ultimate reality, relative reality.
Oh, yes. Relative truth and ultimate truth, right? Thank you, sir. There we go. We'll list a handful of things here, right? Not to be associated with foolish ones, to live in company of wise people, honoring those who are worth honoring. That's the greatest happiness. To live in a good environment, to have planted good seeds, and to realize that you are on the right path is the greatest happiness. To have a chance to learn and grow, to be skillful in your profession or craft, practicing the precepts and loving speech, that is great happiness. To be able to serve and support your parents, to cherish your own family, to have a vocation that brings you joy, that is the greatest happiness. To live honestly, generous and giving, to offer support to relatives and friends, living a life of blameless conduct, that is greatest happiness. To avoid unwholesome actions not caught by alcoholism or drugs, and to be diligent in doing good things is greatest happiness. To be humble and polite in manner, to be grateful and content with a simple life, not missing the occasion to learn the Dharma is the greatest happiness. To preserve and to fully practice in Dharma discussions is the greatest happiness. To live diligently, attentively, to perceive the noble truths and to realize nirvana is the greatest happiness. To live in the world with your heart undisturbed by the world, with all sorrows and unvanquished wherever they go. Always they are safe and happy. Happiness lives within oneself. Isn't that?
One way I think of it too is a lot of times as relative or sensual pleasure will have a thought, I am happy.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, this kind of happiness is more like, there is happiness. It's just there.
Right. Right.
If you're happy, and there's so much make you happy, and somebody takes that away, you're unhappy. So that's true.
Correct.
I think because there's a level, there's acknowledgement that there's a level of attachment, but there's also the mastery of detachment. And to have that mastery slow it down, you have an I know not just being alone after that,
Mm-hmm.
and then false illusions and false perceptions. So that's, it's completely the art of attachment. I mean, like in a way, because it gets so subtle. The attachment becomes attachment. I don't think one can be fully detached. There's always some increment of attachment somewhere. If you dig deep enough, I don't think you can fully detach and remain fully detached, because that would be an enlightenment being walking around.
You are.
Everybody has that potential, right? Everybody has potential for Buddha.
Right, but we can't say that to be fully detached is impossible, because clearly that's not the case. It is possible, because once you do that, then you're an enlightened being, right? So, but detachment from things isn't one big grand gesture. Little things in my life that I have completely detached from. I have zero desire for them, right? Especially sensual desires is one thing. it just doesn't exist as far as I am concerned with myself, right? Or the desire to have Michelin star meals every day, right? Or to have a super fancy car, or to have a super high paying job, or whatever it may be. I don't care for those things, right? And so it didn't come all at once, right? It was a process throughout my practice. You're able, I think, when we read about detachment or try to study attachments and desires and all these things, it's rarely, if ever, even mentioned that how the process of detachment happens, right? At least as far as I can remember through my own studies, right? There are passages where it's like, okay, you know, the way to think about your attachment, to contemplate them, to ask where they come from, why they're there, et cetera, which is correct, right? Because again, when you have when you have a desire, or you have a thought of I like this, or thought of happiness, you have to question yourself. Where does this feel? How we become detached from things is because if we question it truly, deeply, to find the source of why we believe this brings us happiness, or why this has a cause of desire or attachment, and we cut that, then we have one less attachment in our life. We may have a bazillion more, but we have one less. And the more we do that, the more we're able to slowly just strengthen. But just being able to cut off one attachment is already an extremely huge accomplishment. You've had a moment of aha, you have a moment of enlightenment in that process of detachment. But just like enlightenment, it's not one big aha moment. There's no fireworks show, right? That's not how it happens. That's not how it happens. So even the realization of impermanence, right, between the difference of understanding, knowing impermanence, and realizing, also isn't one grand show. It comes in pieces, right? Because there's a bazillion things in the world, right? Because they come in pieces. You have the realization of impermanence of form, of stick with the five skandhas, for instance, of form. Right? What is form? Form in this case is body. Well, what is the body? The body is a component of body pieces. Because you can. You can cut off the attachment to alcohol, right? And you've completely cut that off. That's an amazing accomplishment. You have one less attachment. Next, do it with smoking or cigarettes. Next, do it with processed foods or meat or whatever it may be, right? This is what I mean by detachment. We don't have to think of detachment of some high spiritual thing, right? Because it's the mundane physical things that have influence towards spiritual life. And the mundane physical things is what we have to cut off in order to support the spiritual life. That's why you have precepts. Precepts are the mundane physical things of life. And that's by following the precepts that help.
Every action, whether that is breathing, stepping, thinking, talking, every action is a light of a match.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about attachment, emptiness, void, that duality and non-duality imply each other. There is no separation between them. Every action that you do, non-duality too, because the two ends, you can't separate. There's no separation between the two in a way. The matchstick will always, in some way, be flickering because there's always an action. But when you practice detachment, origination, the interconnectedness of emptiness is fullness, and fullness is emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, beyond that, you can almost, in a state of total detachment and feel that particular emptiness. But then the moment you open your eyes, the moment you speak, the moment you move, that duality, the duality comes into play. And how much you're attached to that duality, I think, really plays a huge role in what kind of actions you make, what kind of actions you accept.
What do you mean by duality? I don't understand the word duality.
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 It's a loaded question. Is yes. So duality in Buddhism or non-duality in Buddhism is simply just the act of not comparing, thinking that things are separate. Ugly, beautiful is separate. Good and bad is separate. Yes and no is separate. Right and wrong is separate, right? We try not to have those concepts because, as Joe mentioned, things are not separate from the bell. I cannot take one thing and not the other, right? They're all interconnected. They all have the same source in a sense. In Buddhism, there's the three and Atman, right? Impermanence, suffering, and non-self. By applying these three characteristics to our life, to things that we view and see and feel and touch and taste, etc., that's essentially to help us along the path of detachment, help us along the path of seeing things as impermanent, help us along the path of seeing that all things are interrelated, helping us see the path of true reality beyond our ignorance. So just remember the three keywords: anicca, dukkha, and atman, right? Impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Because all things in life and the universe all share these three things. They are all impermanent, they all cause suffering, and they all have... That's how I'm going to answer your question. We'll do one more question or any other comments since we started a bit late due to technological difficulties. Good questions, though. If there's nothing else, then we will transfer the merit and go to chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. For any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full enlightenment. Since in the censer now is burning all the Dharma realm in every place, auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body, homage to the incense canopy, Bodhisattva and Great Bodhisattva. Gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Buddhas as earth herself, reflecting our careful our wholehearted mindfulness and the fruit of slowly ripening, may we and all beings be companions awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. To the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely sung hymn of empty and three periods of time. To the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha Maitreya, honored future Buddha Manjushri, great wisdom Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattvas, and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate bliss, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion Bodhisattva, great strength Bodhisattva, earth stored great vow Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure sea light. 56. Chapter 10, 56. That time the world-honored one spoke to the assembly and said, if you wish to abide in the Buddha way and successful, gain the wisdom that comes of itself, you should be constantly diligent in offering alms to those who embrace the Lotus Sutra. If you have a wish to quickly obtain wisdom regarding all species of things, you should sutra, and at the same time sing the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful. Know that such a person is an envoy of the Buddha who thinks with pity of living beings. Those who are capable of embracing the Lotus Sutra of the Wonderful will relinquish their claim to the Pure Land, and out of it will be born and choose to be in this evil world, so that may broadly expound the unsurpassed law. You should offer heavenly flowers and robes decked with heavenly treasures. The Wonderful treasure hoards of heaven as alms to those who preach low in the evil world, following my extinction. If there are those who can embrace this sutra, you should press your palms together in reverence and offer alms to them as you would to the world-honored one. The best delicacies, all that is sweet and tasty, along with various types of clothing, sons and hopes, you may hear a moment of their preaching. If there are those in a latter age who can accept and embrace the suit, they are for the space of a kalpa. One should constantly harbor a mind destitute of good, and with angry look should revile the Buddha. He will be committing an offense of immeasurable gravity. But if towards those who read, recite, and embrace this Lotus Suit, one should even for a moment dire seeks the Buddha way, enduring a certain kalp, presses palms together in my presence and recites numberless verses of praise. Because of these praises of the Buddha, he will gain immeasurable blessings. And if one lauds and extols those who uphold this sutra, his good fortune will be even great. For the space of 80 million kalpas, with the most wonderful shapes and sounds, with that which is pleasing to smell, taste, and touch, offer alms to this sutra. If you have offered alms in this manner and have heard the teachings for even a moment, then you will experience joy and good fortune. Say, I have gained great benefit, medicine king. Now I say to you, I have preached various sutras, and among the treasure tower at the time in the Buddha's presence, there was a tower adorned with the 7 treasures, 500 yojanas in height and 250 yojanas in width and depth. I rose up out of the and so suspended in the air. Various kinds of precious objects adorned it. It had 5,000 railings, 1,000, 10,000 rooms, and numberless streets and banners decorated it. All 4 sides emitted a fragrance of tadampatra and sandalwood that pervaded the world. Its banners and canopies were made of the 7 treasures of gold, silver, lapis, lazuli, seashell, agate, pearl, and carnelian. And it was so high it reached to the heavenly palace. On heavenly mandarava flowers as an offering to the treasure tower, and the other heavenly beings and the dragon tower, paying it reverence, honor, and praise at the time. A loud voice issued from the treasure tower, speaking words of praise. Excellent, excellent, Shakyamuni, world honored one, that you can take the great wisdom of equality, a law to instruct the Bodhisattva, guarded and kept it in mind by the Buddhas, the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law, and preach it for the sake of the great assembly. Shakyamuni Mahasattva, named great joy of preaching, who understood the doubts that were in the minds of the heavenly and human beings, asuras and other beings of all the worlds. He said to the Buddha, world honored one, for what reason has this treasure tower risen out of the earth, and why does this voice issue from its midst? At the time the Buddha said, great joy of preaching in the treasure tower is the complete body of a thus come one long ago, an immeasurable 1,000, 10,000 million Ashamkayas of world to the east, in a land called treasure pure. There was a Buddha named many treasures. When this Buddha vow saying, if after I have become a Buddha and entered extinction in the lands to the directions, there is any place where the Lotus Sutra is preached, then my funerary tower, in order that I may listen to the sutra, will come forth and appear in thy honor. Spoke to the assembly and said, this holy Lord, this world honored one, though he passed into extinction long ago, still seats himself in the treasure tower, coming here for the sake of the law. You people win sake of the law, this Buddha passed into extinction an endless number of kalpas ago, but in the many places he comes to listen to the law, because such opportunities are hard to encounter. This Buddha originally made a vow saying, after I have passed into extinction, wherever I may go, in whatever place, my constant aim will be to hear the double number. Like Ganges sands have come desiring to hear the law, and so they may see many treasures. Thus come one who has passed into extinction. Each has abandoned his wonderful land, as well as all the offerings they give him has come to this place on purpose, who makes certain the law will long in order to see these Buddhas. I have employed transcendental powers, moving immeasurable multitudes, causing lands to be clean and pure, leading to the foot of a jewel tree adorned as lotus blossoms, and a clear cool pool beneath these jewel lions seats, and the Buddha seat themselves on them, adorning them with their brilliance like a huge torch burning in the darkness of the night. A wonderful incense exudes from their bodies, pervading the lands in the 10 direct. Living beings are wrapped in the aroma, unable to restrain their joy, as though a great wind were tossing the branches of small trees through this assembly. After I have passed into extinction, who can guard and uphold me and recite this sutra now in the presence of the Buddha? Let him come forward. There's many treasures Buddha, though he passed into extinction long ago, because of his grave hours the lions roar. Many treasures thus are in you, sons of the Buddha, who can guard the law. Let him make a grave vow to ensure he who is capable of guarding the law of this sutra will thereby have come to me into many treasures. This many treasures Buddha, dwelling in his treasure tower, journeys constantly throughout the 10 direct. For the sake of this sutra, one who guards this sutra will also have offered alms to the emanation Buddha, who have come here adorning and making brilliant all the various worlds. If one preaches this sutra, he will be able to see me and many treasures. Thus come one and these emanation Buddhas, all you good men, each of you must consider carefully. This is number as many as Ganges sands, but though you expound the sutra, Dear Buddha's a person who can do this wins the admiration of the Buddhas. This is what is meant by valor. This is what by diligence. This is what is called observing the precepts and practicing Dutta. This way one will quickly attain the unsurpassed Buddha way. And if in future senses one can read and uphold this sutra, he will be a true son of the Buddha, dwelling in a land spotless and good. If after the Buddha has passed into extinction, one can understand the meaning of this sutra, he will be the eyes of the world and human beings. If in that fearful age one can preach the sutra for even a moment, he will deserve to receive alms from all heavenly and human beings. Let's go to page 171. Sattva avarokita, while moving in the deep course of Prajnaparamita, shed light on the five skandhas and found them equally enter this penetration. He overcame ill-being, listen, Shadi's emptiness is not other than form. The same is true with feelings, personal formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shadi Putra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defile, neither increasing nor decreasing. Therefore, in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, nor perceptions, nor mental formations, nor consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object, no mind, no realms of interdependent origins, and no extinction of them, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, understanding, no attainment, their minds having no obstacle, overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore one should know that perfect understanding is the highest mantra, the unequaled mantra. The Dharshita should therefore be proclaimed. Gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha, gate, gate, para, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha, gate, gate, para, sam, gate, bodhi, swaha. Jinn beings are limitless. I vow to liberate them. Afflictions are endless. I vow to eradicate them. Teachings are infinite. I vow to learn them. Buddhahood is supreme. I vow to attain in all future lives until I attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, that I will help all sentient beings in all the thus come one worthy of offerings of proper universal knowledge, perfect in understanding, and leaving the world through liberation, perfect and complete understanding. All people, Buddha, the world honored one. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Namo Avalokiteshvara refuge, standing and other community that lives in harmony and awareness. In the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world dwelling. The refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation dwelling. Refuge of keeping my practice free of obstruction. Refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the myself I aspire. Help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha, in myself I aspire to help all people build for things and support their transformation. Citing the sutras, practicing the way of awareness gives rise to benefit. Without limits, we vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along